Hey everyone, it's Carolyn. Welcome to the channel. For those of you who don't know me, I am a psychic, and here on this channel I love to teach people the tarot card meanings by relating it to popular TV shows and movies. And so I just got done watching The Last of Us, and I thought that would be a perfect tool to teach people the tarot card meanings with. So in this video, I'm going to be taking the different characters that we see throughout the episodes and linking their energy and their personalities with the tarot cards. I want to let you know this video is going to have spoilers for what happens in each episode. So if you haven't watched it yet or you haven't finished the series yet, go ahead and do that before watching this video. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe and turn on that bell notification so you don't miss out when I post my next video. I post more educational videos like this, but I also post different readings. So I do pick a pile readings, collective readings, and past life readings to help you with wherever you're at on your spiritual journeys. So first up we have Joe, and I feel for him there was a couple different cards that embody his energy, but I felt that the one that fit him the most was the Strength card, and that's because Strength represents this energy of courage, bravery, going and doing things that others cannot do, but it also represents this energy of vulnerability and that inner strength and resilience. And we see that with Joe because, for one thing, he's been through a lot. He's suffered through a lot of pain, a lot of loss, and overall that has affected his personality. He's not a very happy guy. He's a very guarded guy because of everything he's been through. And so he's had to toughen himself up internally in order to make it where he's at, because he's been through stuff that a lot of people could not handle and they could not take on. And so while he might not feel strong, he represents that inner strength that he has within. And so he's been able to overcome obstacles that others have not. And he also has physical strength. That's part of why he's alive, because he knows how to fight. He knows how to protect himself. He knows how to defend himself. That's how he's able to survive. And then we see throughout the series, he starts to lean into that vulnerability and allowing himself to open up with his relationship with Ellie. He starts as this very guarded person who has his walls up, who doesn't let people in. And we see him suffer through the loss of Tess and the people close to him when he discovers that Bill and Frank are dead. And slowly throughout the series we see him start to open up. He learns how to care for someone else again, and we see him care for Ellie the way that he cared for his daughter. And so that type of relationship is something he's guarded himself from because he doesn't want to be hurt again, but we see him take that risk with Ellie because she kind of creeps into his heart, and it's very unexpected for him. But that's where he has this strength energy, because not only is he embodying the strength qualities that we all associate with strength, but he also has that inner vulnerability that he didn't even know he had. And that's something with the Strength card, is taking that risk, that gamble on yourself without knowing how it's going to pay off. And so what starts as a promise to Tess ends up changing his life in a way that he never knew, but he just did it because he knew he had to. There's no other options. And even in the last episode, he still embodies the energy of strength because it's doing what others are afraid to do. It might not always be right, but he has that resilience within him. And it's fueled by his vulnerability with Ellie, of how much he emotionally cares about her. And so when the Strength card appears in your tarot reading, it could be representing physical strength, but it also means that emotional strength to either take a risk and do something because you have to, because other people are relying on you, because people are depending on you, or it could also mean that there's an emotional vulnerability you have to have within a situation. And so this card is very multifaceted, just like Joel is. And then we have Sarah, and I think Sarah embodies the energy of the Page of Swords. And I say this because she's a young child, so she is a page. A page is an energy that is more youthful, a little immature, more impulsive, more reckless, because they don't have as much knowledge as other people do, because they are on the younger phase of life. And so when you encounter the pages in a reading, it represents someone who is new to this journey. They are new to whatever the tarot card is referencing. And so with Sarah, she was a very young person, so she embodies that page's energy. But then the Page of Swords is someone where they have a little bit of a mouth on them. They can be very witty and sarcastic, and they can make quick jokes with one another, and we see that banter between Sarah and Joe. And then the Swords energy also represents the mind, and so this is someone who's very smart, very wise. And so even though it's a page, they might not know everything, they're not dumb. And Sarah's a very smart child. We see Sarah's very resourceful. She wants to get her dad a nice gift, and so she goes to town to fix up his watch. We also see that when everything starts to go go wrong, she can sense something's not quite right. And while she doesn't have all the information at her disposal to put the pieces together, she adapts very quickly to the situation, and her survival mode kicks in. And she does what she needs to do to try and protect herself and to protect her dad and make sure that they are doing what is best for them. And she pushes through as much as she can up into the very end. And that really embodies the Page of Swords energy, because there's someone where they might not have all the answers, but they're still very mindful, they're aware, they might be a little immature, they might do things that are wrong, but they're always trying to move forward, they're always trying to do the right thing for their plan. And so when they face an obstacle, they brainstorm their way around it. And so we see that with Sarah. She really does her best to try and overcome everything that she's facing, even though she's young, even though she doesn't have all the answers. And so the Page of Swords appears in your readings. It's representing an energy that can be a little impulsive, that can be a little bit fast-paced with how they overcome obstacles and how they solve things and how they intake information. But ultimately, they're figuring out a plan, they're figuring out a path forward, and they're going to get what they want and keep fighting for that no matter what they face. And so it's a very determined energy, but it's a little bit of a naive energy where when they're moving forward with the plan, they are a little bit too optimistic because they are not seeing all the potential flaws. So next up we have Ellie, and I think the card that best embodies her is the Sun card, because the Sun is a very optimistic, happy, illuminating energy. When you have the Sun, you're seeing through all the lies, all the deceptions, and you're getting to the heart of the matter. And we see with Ellie, she is someone where she tries her best to be optimistic. She's a child, and so she has that inner hope that Joel has lost. And so we see throughout the show that not only does she embody this optimism for moving forward, but she also brings it out in the people that she interacts with. She's a very happy person, maybe not in everything that she says, but when you truly get to know her at her heart, she really brings out this level of playfulness that a lot of people no longer have. And we see her childlike energy with the pun book. That is something that she really loves to do, and in a way that brings that sun-like energy into Joel's life, because it's this moment of playfulness and being carefree and not stressing about everything 24/7. And so she's that break that Joel really needs throughout the series. And she also is very optimistic that she's going to be able to help people. We see when it comes to her helping Sam, she does her best to cure him with her blood, hoping that will prevent him from changing. And unfortunately that doesn't work for her, but she has that moment of hope and feeling like she can really do it. And we see how hard it affects her when she realizes that it's not that easy, and that's something that she really has to struggle with. And we see that throughout the series. There's moments where she encounters these very dark situations that really change her and make it where she's not as happy and optimistic as she once was. And that's kind of like the Sun in tarot. It represents happiness, but it doesn't mean that everything's going perfectly. Sometimes there's going to be clouds in front of that sun. There's going to be blocks from it. And so when a Sun card appears in tarot, it means things are going to improve. The sun is coming out, but it doesn't mean that it's going to happen instantaneously. And I think Ellie's a good reminder of that. The Sun also has this quality of illuminating things and showing the shadows, showing the things that don't make sense, don't add up. And we see this with Ellie throughout the series. She's someone where she's very aware of people and what their motivations are. And even though she's an optimistic person, we still see moments where she doesn't fully trust Joel and where they have to work on their relationship because she's not going to naively trust people. And then we see at the last episode, after Joel has gained her trust, that things aren't fully adding up for her, that they're not making sense. And she's aware of that, but she's choosing not to dive deeper on it because she wants to believe him. And so that embodies that sun-like energy where you see the truth, but sometimes you are trying to believe in the best version of someone. And so when the Sun card appears in your reading, it can represent improvement, optimism, trying to be more happy, and it can also represent this level of truth coming into your life where you're seeing the situation for what it fully is. So next we have Tess, and like Joel, I think there was a lot of different tarot cards that could embody her energy. I also think like Joel, the Strength card would have fit her very well, but I felt it fit Joel more. And so for Tess, I ended up choosing the Death card. And now this isn't meant to be like literal, even though it does kind of work for her because we know what ultimately happened happens with Tess, but I think that it fits her personality. Because if we look at the death card without the scary lens that a lot of people have on it, death represents change and transformation, and it represents one ending that leads to something else. And so that something else might be better, might be worse, we don't know, it's the unknown. And we see with Tess and her personality, she is someone where she embraces the change and transformation of things, because in her viewpoint, things can't get worse. And so we see this with Ellie. Tess believes in Ellie and that she's immune and that she's going to be able to save everyone. She sees the uniqueness of her and how that can spread to everyone. And so she accepts the change of things and how they can improve. And so we see that Tess embodies this energy where she embraces change. She's learned from her previous experience of how things can change drastically in ways that no one ever thought, like when the original outbreak happened. And so we see with Ellie, Tess sees this as her chance to help be a part of this change. And then at the end of the episode, we see that Tess sacrifices herself knowing she can't move forward anymore. But in that moment, she uses her last moments not only to protect Joel and Ellie and allow them to go and save everyone, but she also makes Joel promise her that he's going to take care of Ellie. She accepts the fact that she can't help them anymore, that she can't move on with them, but she can send them away and she can protect them. And so she has that surrendering energy to the situation, and she allows it to take fold, trusting that the outcome is going to be worth it. And that's what the death card represents. When it appears in your reading, it's telling you you need to surrender to the situation and allow the change to happen, because it's going to happen regardless of what you want. Because we see with Tess, she understands there's no way she can save herself, but Ellie might be able to save others in the future. But that does nothing for her now. She's been bitten, so the only thing she can do, knowing that she's going to die, is make it that no one can follow Joel and Ellie, that they can get away safe and continue on with the mission. And so there's that act of surrender, and then there's the act of allowing the outcome to happen, because it's not going to wait. It's not going to stop itself just because you are not mentally in sync with it. Just because you don't want it to happen or you're in denial about it isn't going to change facts. And so that's something to be aware of when it appears in your readings. This is happening regardless. The death moment, the death situation is happening regardless, and you have to act accordingly with the information of this change. So next up we have Tommy, and I think the tarot card that best fits him is the Lover's card. So the reason I think the Lover's card best suits Tommy is because it's not only a card about romantic relationship, it means choices. And we see Tommy, he's made some good choices, some bad choices, but ultimately his choices have really affected his life. We've seen in the past that he's chosen his own survival at the cost of other people's lives, and we see now he's chosen to leave that behind and to move forward and build a life with Maria and raising his child with her. And so we see that he's able to shift his life based on the choice and the decisions that he wants in this moment. We also see that Tommy is someone who's fiercely loyal to the people around him. We saw his connection with his family, with Joel, and how much they really depended and relied on one another. But we also see now his new choice with his new family that he's building for himself is Maria, is his child. And so he's going to do his best to protect them. Now he still cares about Joel, he still has that loyalty to him. So once Joel explains why he has to take Ellie, he's willing to take that risk and go and try and bring her to the Fireflies. And so we see that he's someone where his choices and his loyalty, his love for other people really influence him. And so when the Lover's card appears in your reading, it can represent a romantic relationship like we see between Tommy and Maria, but it also represents an energy of having a choice in the matter of choosing what you are going to do, what you are going to pick. And so let's say that you're doing a tarot reading and you get the Lover's card. It could represent a romantic relationship, but it also might be reflecting the question back to you and asking you what you truly choose. And so that's just something to be a bit mindful of. So next up we have Maria, and I think the tarot card that best suits her is the Empress. And so there's many reasons for this. First of all, throughout the series we see that she's pregnant, and so that's embodying the energy of the Empress, because she's that mother figure, she's that mother mother representation in the tarot deck. And we also see that she is the leader of the commune. She has kind of organized this way of living for everyone that is allowing everyone to thrive. And so that in itself represents the mother energy, because one, as she says herself, it's communism. And so that in itself is something where there's not one leader, there's not one person in charge telling people what to do. It's more of a group effort. And just like the mother archetype represents in the Empress card, it's that energy of creating life that is self-sustaining, that is living on its own. It's birthing this creation into existence, but giving it the tools to survive on its own. And so yes, she's the leader of the commune, but it survives entirely without her. People look up to her, people respect her, much like one does a mother, just like one would with the Empress, but she in itself is no longer important to everything working. It's self-sustaining on its own. And so to me, that's why she embodies this energy so well, because she has that loving connection to everyone, but ultimately she's made it that everyone is independent of her. And we also see throughout the episode that she's extremely careful and protective of her people, making sure that strangers aren't going to come in and run havoc and create chaos for everyone. She ensures their safety. And so she's very mindful of who she allows in and who she trusts. And so she has that respect to really decide what is best for everyone. And so if the Empress energy appears in your reading, it could be indicating that you're meant to create something, or you're meant to come up with some idea that's really going to allow you to put your all into it and make it become something bigger than yourself, and kind of build this legacy for you in a way where you have this loving, nurturing relationship with the people in your life, but in a way that you also have your independence. Next we have Bill, and I think the tarot card that best embodies his energy is the Hermit, because the Hermit is someone where they're a little reclusive, isolated, hidden from society. And if we see Bill, that very much fits his energy. He is not a very social person. He's not a very likable person. He is very protective of himself and what he has. He's a survivor, and so he's going to do what he needs to do for him. And it's not until Frank comes along that he actually allows himself to open up to someone. But even though he's very open with Frank, he does not let other people in. We see him and Joe's relationship be a very estranged one. They both respect one another, and in a way they are friends, but they are not close friends. They are friends because they respect one another, and that is what their relationship is. The only person that Bill ever truly opened up to that we see in the series is Frank. And so he's still very much that hermit. He's still very much someone who is isolated from others. And so that's a part of his personality. And by being a hermit, that's actually how he's able to stay in his home and stay in his town when the outbreak happens. And so in a way, the skills that make him hide away from society has actually helped him stay alive. That's very befitting of the Hermit energy, because it's all about introspection and reflection that allows you to then have breakthroughs with it. And so Bill himself as a hermit might not be able to socialize with everyone and doesn't care to do so, but it makes it where he has the mindset on how to survive and what needs to be done in order to do that. And so if the Hermit card is appearing in your reading, it's representing an energy in which you might have to pull a bit away from others, focus on yourself, and educate yourself, whether that's through meditation, reflection, analyzing your own life, or by actually educating yourself, going back to school, reading some books, watching some videos. It represents a breakthrough in your mindset that happens on your own. Now for Frank, I would say the tarot card that best fits him is the Page of Cups, because when we look at Frank, he's a bit of a romantic, he's a bit of an optimist, but he's a little bit naive with things. He wears his heart on his sleeve, which isn't a bad thing, but it's something that Bill is not very familiar with. It's something that's very foreign to him. And so the Page of Cups is someone where they're very emotional. They want to love, they want to care for people, but they're a bit of a dreamer. And so their head's in the clouds. They're not always doing things the most logical way, but they don't care because their heart's on their sleeve. And so that very much fits Frank's energy. He's someone where he's going to do things that just make him feel good. He wants them to improve what their house looks like. He's the one who makes friends with Tess and Joel, even though that's not necessarily the most strategic thing. It's something that he does because he wants to, and that's where that romantic energy plays out in him. He has this desire to allow others into his life and to allow himself to take pride in what his area, his home looks like. And so there's this disconnect between him and Bill's energy, where Bill is so estranged and he's this much more friendly, warm person. And so to me, that is the Page of Cups, because they are going to do things that maybe others look at them and it's like, why are you doing this? But when you get down to it, it's because they have such a big heart. And because of this big heart, that's why him and Bill are able to form a relationship, because Bill has a very cold exterior, and a lot of people would not be able to crack that. But Frank is this very genuine, loving, compassionate person who also, because he's that Page of Cups energy, doesn't see it as a block. He sees it as something that can be overcome. He just continues to love him the way that he knows how. And we see throughout the episode that Bill lets his guards down, that he opens up to Frank because he feels that genuine love and compassion from him. And that's something to keep in mind with the Page of Cups energy. It represents someone where they're a bit naive to the blocks and the limitations of things. Because they're a dreamer, they think that the impossible is possible, and so they don't see any limitations or any reasons not to do things that they want to do. And so when they face a challenge, they're not going to understand that it's a challenge. They don't see it as a challenge. They just push past it. And we also see this optimism when Bill is shot. Frank still takes care of him and keeps telling him that he's going to live. He's not believing that Bill is going to die, and Bill doesn't die. And so even though it might be a bit naive, that optimism gets them through a lot of tough challenges. And so when the Page of Cups appears in your readings, it's representing a young, youthful energy, whether by actual age or by their mindset, that is a little bit more naive to things, doesn't have all the information, but in a way that helps them out because they are so emotional and they are so vulnerable that they genuinely care and love things wholeheartedly. They don't hold back from the things that they want and the things that they desire. And so it's representing that there's going to be someone in your life, whether it's your energy or someone your readings on energy, that is very pure and well-intentioned. And so it's this very optimistic, romantic, loving, compassionate energy. So next we have Riley, and the card that best fits her is the Two of Wands, and that's because the Two of Wands represents action. It follows the Ace of Wands, which is that spark, and it ignites it further, multiplies it with that action. It's about taking this idea and doing something with it, moving beyond just the concept and starting to actually bring it into life. And we see this with Riley's personality. She is someone where she's a little impulsive and she goes out and she does things without always thinking it through, but that's because she's focused on the action. She's focused on doing it. And so we see with Riley, she's more about action than she is with words, and she's all about doing things instead of just waiting them out. And we also see that she takes action on her own life and joins the Fireflies when her original idea is no longer viable. And so this is an energy of someone who is very adaptable, and they're able to take action and move forward without needing a lot of time to process and to think it through. They're very quick on their feet. And so when the Two of Wands appears in your readings, it's representing energy of action, of something is happening. And so whatever you are asking about, it's affirming, hey, this is something that's going to happen. This is the next step. It also represents an energy of doing something and getting out of your comfort zone, taking a risk and going out and making something happen, making something possible. It represents a quicker energy, a more fast-paced energy in which there's less time for limbo, there's less time to wait. And again, it's that quick-paced action, doing it and allowing it to happen. It's more about the moment rather than the thoughts or the energy surrounding it leading up to it. It's more something that's representing the present moment. And that's what Riley is about. She's really about the present moment. Even when her and Ellie have been bitten and she thinks that they're going to die, she wants to continue to live life. She doesn't want to just kill herself and have that be the end of it. She wants to go into her last moments. And not only is she the action, but we also see in a lot of ways she's the catalyst for Ellie and this entire journey for the series. Because if she didn't take Ellie to the mall that day, then Ellie would have never been bit. She would have never discovered that she's immune. So not only is Riley the action for herself and the way she lives her life, she's also the action for the whole reason this plot even exists. So next we have Marlene, and I think the tarot card that best represents her energy is the Emperor. And the reason for this is Marlene is the leader of the Fireflies, and so she's the person that everyone looks up to. She's the guidance, she's the leader, she's the one who's responsible for them. And that's very much like the Emperor's energy, because he has all his people to take care of. He has to be the leader, he has to do what's best for everyone, and so he's not able to make selfish decisions decisions because he has to think about the greater good. And we see Marlene struggle with this throughout the series when she has to make the tough decisions between her head versus her heart. And so because she represents this emperor energy, she has to do what's better for everyone. She also needs to have this awareness of the situation and what's truly going on. She needs to know all the facts, because if she doesn't have all the facts, if she's not mindful, if she's not alert and aware to everything, someone is going to get hurt. And she can't afford that to happen to her members. And so she has to take the information that she has and make the best plan forward with it. And so she's someone where she's very strategic, she's very adaptable, and she's a forward thinker. And that really embodies the energy of the emperor, because he too is someone where he has to be strategic and know how to protect his people with the tools and the resources that he has. And so she really embodies the energy of the emperor, because people are depending on her, they're relying on her to make a change, to uphold her promises and do what's best for them. And so there's a lot of pressure put on her shoulders that she handles extremely well, but it does create these moments of dilemma for her. And so when the emperor card appears in your readings, it's representing a person in your life, whether it's you or someone else, who has to make a very level-headed decision, has to think of the logic behind it, has to think of the strategy behind it, even though emotions might be fighting against it. It also represents an energy of someone who might be a little bit stubborn, who's so focused on their goals that they can't see another perspective. Because we also see this with Marlene, because she has to think about the greater good, she can't listen to other perspectives that go against it. Despite if they're a good argument or not, she has to do what's best for everyone, regardless of how she personally feels about it. Next we have Henry, and I think the tarot card that fits him the best is the Five of Swords. And the reason for this, the Five of Swords represents an energy of being at an impasse, agreeing to disagree, or that's what you need to do, but right now everyone is disagreeing and people are being stubborn. Everyone has their own perspective and no one is going to budge. And we see this with Henry. He saves Henry at the expense of Kathleen's own brother, but he does so because for him, Sam's the most important thing in his life and he's not going to lose him. But it creates this impasse in which he's putting his wants, his needs, his desires above other people. And so there's this selfish, stubborn energy that Henry embodies. And so with Henry being the Five of Swords, this makes it where he's kind of unlikable to other people, especially Kathleen. It makes it where he is going to do what needs to be done to protect his brother. And so this means being a snitch, turning on people, betraying them, and doing things that other people are not going to like or agree with, but he's doing so because it fits with what he wants. And so he has this very singular, narrow-minded way of thinking in order to protect Sam. And his arguments for it might be valid, but it still creates this energy in which he's only going for what he wants and he's blocked off from other perspectives. And so when the Five of Swords is appearing in your readings, it means that there's a situation, there's a conflict with someone in your life that you're never going to be able to agree on. Everyone's coming from a different place. It doesn't mean you're right or wrong. It just means that there's not going to be an agreement, there's not a compromise, and you're at this impasse in which there's really no winners and everyone's going to end up losing in some way. And we even see at the end of the episode Henry struggle with his own way of thinking when he ultimately does have to kill Sam. He has so much regret and remorse for it that he ends up killing himself, because it goes against everything that he was working towards and goes against every way of thinking that he had. Because when you have the Five of Swords, the swords represent your mindset. So it's really about your foundation, your way of thinking that's keeping you stubborn, that's making you hold on to whatever it is that's appearing in your reading. So be mindful of that. Sometimes it's not that you're wrong, it's that you're going about it in a way that is so stubborn, you're not allowing logic or reason to persuade you, and you're going to get lost in your own way of thinking. So then we have Sam, and the tarot card that best fits him, I found, was the Nine of Swords. And I think the reason for this is we see a lot of fear surrounding Sam, and there's a lot of different reasons for this. And the Nine of Swords represents an energy that is about anxiety, fears, worries, but it also showcases the fact that this person doesn't want to be feeling this way. It's not someone where they're stuck feeling this way and they want to. It's someone who's trying to get rid of these thoughts but is not able to. And I think that's more fitting of who Sam truly is. He has these fears, has these worries, but he tries his hardest to overcome them. He tries his hardest to believe in everyone and believe that there's a way out and trust in the people around him to save him. And so he embodies the Nine of Swords because he has all this within him that he's feeling, that he's struggling with, but he keeps it hidden from people because he's trying to overcome it on his own. And so one of the first ways we see this is Sam is dependent on on Henry. He's deaf. He's not able to survive on his own in this type of society with the way that things have fallen apart. And so because of this, he's dependent on his brother to have his back. And so he's not able to be self-reliant, to be independent and help his brother in the way that he wishes he could. And so he tries to put on a brave face and act like he's not worried, but he senses when Henry is worried. And so when Henry is afraid, Sam is afraid, because he is only protected because of Henry. And so when the person who's protecting you is afraid, then you really feel powerless. And I think that's something that we see Sam struggle with, is he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know how to fix it because he's a kid and he doesn't have the resources available to protect Henry the way that Henry's trying to protect him. And we see Joel touch on this when he's talking to Henry, because Joel sees that Sam is afraid, because as much as Sam tries to hide it, he's not always able to. And we see at the end of the episode, after Sam has been bitten, that he's afraid of who he's going to turn into, who is he going to become. And we see his hesitation and his fearfulness that makes it where he asks Ellie to stay up with him because he doesn't want to turn into a monster. And so he struggles with these fears of all these what ifs that consume him. And that's where I really think he embodies the Nine of Swords energy, because the Nine of Swords is not saying that you want to feel this way, but it is showing that you do. And sometimes you can try to fight it as much as you want, these thoughts creep in. So next up we have Kathleen. And I think the card that best fits her is the Justice card. And the reason for this is not that she's a fair person, but because in her eyes, she's a balanced person. She kind of has an eye for an eye mentality. And so in Kathleen's own eyes, she believes she's being fair because she's doing kind of what has been done to them for so long. We see it when she's keeping the people trapped and how she resents them because they turn their backs on everyone else, but then want her to have mercy on them. And she doesn't believe in that because she's jaded to the fact that they didn't care when it wasn't affecting them. They didn't care when it was benefiting them, but now that the situation has flipped, now they want mercy. And so we see that she can be very ruthless within her approach, that she does not take kindly to people who have done something, who are acting like hypocrites. And we also see her resentment towards Henry and also in Sam because of the fact Sam is alive and it cost her brother's life. And Kathleen's perspective on the situation is that her brother would be alive because he should have had the medicine if Henry didn't take it, if Henry didn't steal it. And so in her eyes, Sam should never be alive. And so she doesn't have any remorse for killing him, for killing Henry, because the way she sees it is it's an eye for an eye when it comes to her brother being dead. And so she has this very cutthroat approach to things in which she is only going off of logic, reasoning, no emotion, no actual fairness. It's very much a moral situation and a moral dilemma of who's right, who's wrong, that could be argued with Kathleen's character and her mindset on things. But I think when it comes to the Justice card, that same argument can be question for it. What is truly fair? What is truly justice? And so when the Justice card appears in your reading, it means that a situation is going to be resolved. There's going to be an ending to it that universally is going to be seen as fair, but you might not necessarily feel that way. And it's going to depend on the other cards surrounding it, what the outcome is actually going to be, who it's going to be fair for, what the situation is going to lead towards. And so she embodies the energy of justice, even if she does so in a more gruesome way than we typically like to think about it. So next we have David, and he's a character in himself. He's a very unlikable person. And so I think the tarot card that best fits him is the Devil card. And the reason for this is he practically is the devil in the series, I would say. He's a character that I don't like, and I don't think a lot of people are going to like him. He's a self-proclaimed violent person, and he kind of gets off on hurting people and his own violence. And we see this very creepy relationship and this dynamic that he tries to build between him and Ellie, where he views her as an equal and therefore puts her on this pedestal. And then when she doesn't perform the way that he wants her to, all of a sudden you see that nice man facade fall and his true colors come out, and now he's turning his violence onto her. And so we see that devil-like manipulating energy of someone who can be charismatic, charming, try and pull you in by being nice and trying to appeal to you on some level, whether that's them actually being nice or them telling you what they think you want to hear. But there's this energy of manipulation that all of a sudden, when they see that manipulation is no longer working, that facade falls and they reveal their true selves. And so we see this with David. His whole personality of everything that he is a facade. He is not even as religious as he claims, but he does it because he's trying to keep the community together and protect these people. But really, he's not even doing so in a way that is actually protecting them. We see in the episode that he's resorted to cannibalism of the dead bodies and of the people who truly don't matter as much in the community, so that the rest of the people can eat. And so he has these very questionable things that he does under the guise of being this morally superior person. And so we see that everything that he claims to be is not truly who he is. There's a lot more darkness underneath the surface there. And that's where I truly feel the devil card embodies his personality, because the devil card represents an illusion of facade that you're now seeing for what it truly is, and seeing how it's not what you thought it was, of how you're now trapped by the situation. And so when the devil card appears in your readings, it's warning you that everything is not as it seems. Everything that you thought it once was might not be true, and look deeper into the situation. When that card appears, it's warning you that something is not right, and you need to pinpoint it in order to teach yourself how to escape it and form a plan. Because we see in the episode with Ellie, she sees who he truly is, and she's able to kind of use that to attempt to escape the situation. She breaks his finger and tries to get the key from him. It ultimately doesn't work, but then we see at the end of the episode, she is able to use her own wits to escape the situation. And that's because she has awareness of who he truly is. She's not trusting him. She's looking at the situation for what it is. She knows he's the devil now, and now she's prepared to fight against him. So next we have Anna, and of course I had to talk about her. She's Ellie's mother, and I think the tarot card that best fits her is the Hanged Man. And the reason for this is we see this loving, nurturing bond when Anna gives birth to Ellie, and how she loves her so much, but she's aware that she's gotten bitten. So she does everything in her power to protect Ellie. And so that's where this Hanged Man energy comes into play, because this tarot card represents getting yourself stuck in a situation that you didn't foresee entirely, that you kind of got stuck, things went awry, and now you're stuck in this situation and there's not really a way out. You don't know how to get out of it because the plan you once had is no longer valid. And so you have to really rethink and get a new perspective by surrendering to the situation, letting that original plan go and forming a new one. And so we see that with Anna. She realizes that she's not going to be able to protect Ellie, that she's not going to be able to raise her because she's going to turn. And so the only thing she can do is wait for the rest of the Fireflies to get there and ask Marlene to take care of Ellie, to protect over her in a way that she can't. And she also then asks Marlene to kill her because she knows what she's going to turn into, and she doesn't want to hurt Ellie, and she doesn't want to hurt the rest of them. And so when the Hanged Man appears in your reading, it represents a situation that you've gotten yourself into that you now need to surrender to in order to find a way out. And that involves accepting where you're at and not resisting it, and moving forward with whatever way is viable. And in this moment, Anna knows that the only viable option is her death. Death before she turns into something she does not want to become. And so that's where we see her really embody this Hanged Man energy of looking at where she's at and making the best choice with the facts at her disposal. She doesn't try to bargain or persuade Marlene to keep her alive. She just wants Ellie to be protected. And so we see with Anna that there's this sacrifice that comes along with the energy of the Hanged Man. She needs to sacrifice what she once had, which is her life, in order for Ellie to be protected, in order for her to help Ellie the only way that she now can, which is to make sure she doesn't hurt her. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. I really love this series, and when they make season 2, I definitely want to include the new characters and make this again. So definitely subscribe if you're not already so you can see more of my content. Like I said, I make more videos like this. I have an entire playlist of them already, so I'll have that linked in the cards above if you want to check that out next. And if you want to help support the channel, definitely give this video a big thumbs up and share with others who are interested in content like this. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. I would love to have you a part of this family, and I'm gonna have all my other social media linked in the description box down below so you can check me out there. I can't wait to see you all in my next video. I hope you have a good one. Until then, bye.